My dear respected elders, brothers, and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing us together this afternoon here at the Islamic Association of Collin County, both on Facebook and on YouTube. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide our hearts, to insert in our hearts a sense of resolve, and allow us to be Muslims in action and word. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. I want to begin the discussion today, and I want to frame the discussion carefully only so that the message comes across clearly to one and all. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide my tongue, to guide my heart, to guide your ears and mine, so that we are on the same page once all is said and done. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. The question with which I want to begin this discussion this afternoon is, what purpose does a Jummah khutbah serve? Many in our ummah today sadly don't even know anymore. In light of our appetite to seek different speakers that will cater to our fancies and make the 30-minute slot entertaining, this is a current trend and it has become a current norm throughout our world. Now, before you dissect those words, let me do that for you. Many in the past and some in the current time regulate what could or could not be addressed as a subject matter in the Friday sermon. This is proof of my statement that we cater to our fancies. Number two, advertising speakers harder than the topic of need is evident of my second claim that we try to make the 30-minute slot entertaining. We feel that coming to Jum'ah is a mandate and listening to the khutbah is a mandate, so why not have someone speak that will keep me awake, allow me to feel happy, and to walk away saying, that was worth my time. This, as I said, is becoming the norm in our world. What was khutbah, Jum'ah Friday khutbah, at the time of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Simple question, what was it? The answer is simple, my fellow Muslims. It was to address the need of the moment literally. Again, it was to address the need of the moment literally. Once the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is giving khutbah on Friday, standing on the mimbar, speaking before the congregation. It can't get any more descriptive than what I just said. And a man runs in the midst of this khutbah, he interrupts the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and says, O Messenger of Allah, there has been no rain. The animals are suffering. The crops are dying. Ask Allah to send the rain. I hope you understand this. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ didn't say, hey, you, excuse me, sit down, be quiet. The angels are also listening to the khutbah. That's not a topic of importance that I am willing to discuss, or it's not something I prepare to discuss. Was that the words of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? No. Rather, he stopped what he was saying. He was propagating a message to the people, and he stopped. And he said, "O Allah, send down the rain. O Allah, send down the rain on us." This story alone makes it very clear to you and I that the purpose of the Friday sermon and the Friday congregation and the Jumu'ah prayer and the khutbah and speech is to address the immediate need. And so it happened The hadith states that as soon as they completed the prayer and they walked out, the rain began to fall. And the rain fell for a whole week. Now, the following Friday, Rasulullah is standing on the mimbar. It is the Friday khutbah. He is standing before the congregation. He is addressing them with a message. And the same man comes running in, again disrupting the Friday prayer, and says, "O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ask Allah to stop the rain. The animals are suffering, the crops are flooded." Again, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not say, "Disrespectful person, sit down quietly. This is not the topic that we've selected today." No, he seized his message and he called on Allah. Allahumma hawalayna la alayna. Oh Allah, send this rain around Medina, not on Medina. Meaning, spread this blessing to other places that may need it, but not us. And it is said, shortly thereafter, the rain stopped. So what we learn here is the khutbah is to address the immediate need of the people. Not for the sake of talk, but for the sake of action. What is the purpose of addressing an immediate need? So that people immediately resort to action and not feel content with knowing the word alone. Subhanallah, is this not a discussion that occurs in your homes or your circles? What did you learn in the khutbah today? What was taught in the khutbah today? If we have to talk about what was spoken about, it means that we have not understood that the message was to be embodied into our life, not just inserted into our brains. It's supposed to be an action, it's not supposed to be a word. So Islam has become merely a word. We talk it, we talk about it, we talk about what was spoken about it, and that's it. So the purpose of addressing the immediate need is so that we can immediately resort to a concrete plan of action and not just feel content with what we know. My fellow brothers and sisters, elders and children, understanding this, the premise of the Friday talk, let us now dive into a topic of much needed discussion which needs to be addressed with action now. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all our hearts. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. When we look into the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what was the first hurdle that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam set out to address in order to present the message of Islam as being useful to the masses? What was the one thing he had to do before the message of Islam served as a beneficial message to humanity? It's just like if you're in a restaurant and you select a table, I'm sure some of you, if not many of you, like myself, I'm gonna wipe the table because I want to make sure my table is clean before the food comes on the table, because I don't feel comfortable putting good food on the table when the table itself is not clean. If you understand that example, what was the thing that Prophet ﷺ had to clean before the message was inserted amidst humanity? Well, that's very simple. That was the injustices that was plaguing that society, that being tribalism, racism, etc. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to retreat from Mecca because he did not accept, he did not embrace, rather he was greatly frustrated with the tribalism, the racism, the wars that was ongoing in his people. This was the source of his frustration. And now that Allah selected him with the message, it became imperative for him to clean away this problem in order to insert the message amidst the people. For if he were to give the message in the midst of racism and tribalism, it would have not served beneficial as it came to be a source of benefit for all. Under the banner of Islam, the one distinct benefit that all Muslims experience and should experience is unity. Solidarity is being united in your feeling. Unity is making that feeling a reality. Islam didn't come to express solidarity. Islam came to show unity. Again, Islam didn't come to express solidarity. Islam came to show unity. The $1,000,000 question that I pose to you and myself this afternoon is, how can we all unite when each of us have our own way of seeing the defined premise of unity in our own minds? If I'm united with my friends, I'm united. If I'm united amongst my people, I'm united. If I am united with my friends in the masjid, I'm united. You see, the problem today is that unity is being prevented with roadblocks, and those roadblocks are our personal views and opinions. And they are preventing us from getting to the goal. Islam isn't difficult. It's simple, my fellow Muslims. Unity means everyone is seen the same way you want to be seen by them. You see a person you know, a person you like, a person you don't know, the same way. When you see them with the same level of empathy and mercy and compassion and love, know that unity is actually being formed. And it's being formed because those same roadblocks of our personal views, our personal opinions that have prevented unity from flowing freely like a dam is now bursting. May Allah allow those roadblocks to burst and move right now. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So once we remove those roadblocks, we can now gauge the prophetic teachings to secure the path forward to making it possible. Once again, O Allah, guide my heart with His teachings and not my emotions, and all of us as well. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Step 1 of 5. I'm going to be presenting 5 steps and 10 action points. So please, inshallah, bear with me. If we want unity, there are 5 steps that we need to not take into consideration, we need to implement. Number 1, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum. Alaykum anfusakum. The first step towards unity is removing the roadblocks that exist within me, which are preventing unity. And one of the most common and distinct amongst our internal ummah today is harboring biases, racism, prejudice against others. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, alaykum anfusakum. On you is the responsibility of yourself. So today, the first step we're gonna take physically, mentally, spiritually, is to look at ourselves. I will look at me, you look at you. No longer are we gonna look at each other, we are gonna look at ourselves, for Allah is saying, step 1 of 5, alaykum anfusakum. Take the responsibility of yourself. The one thing that we need to take responsibility of and address and to confront and to resolve and dissolve is the racism that lies within me. The topic of today's discussion is the world is a result of the racism within myself. Do not for a moment point fingers at anyone else when Allah is saying point the finger to yourself. This racism, this bias that we've harbored, and the prejudice is evident from our words and our demeanor. This is occurring in our homes, in our masjids, our social gatherings, wherein we make fun of people with names that question their color, that question their race, that question their creed, and that question their position in our eyes. If you've ever, even in a joke, called someone aswad, or kallu, or kala, or gatia, there's so many languages that have so many derogatory terms that we ridicule others by. If you've ever said in front of your children, or in front of your spouse, or in front of your friends, or in your circle that you feel comfortable in, words that are derogatory towards anyone due to the color of their skin, the country of their origin, the way they look, the way they speak, the way they act. This, my dear brothers and sisters, is the problem in me. We see a black person in a masjid and we say, what is that person doing here? They should be going to Masjid Islam, huh? Because Masjid Islam is the black people masjid of Dallas, and this is the Desi Arab masjid. Today, our masjids, look at this, look how far we've gone. You see, it's not easy to understand this unless you look back. Look how far we've gone. Our masajid are built across ethnic lines. Across the world, across Europe, America, and Canada. I remember in 1999, I think it was, that I went to visit one of my teachers who had just opened an institute and a center in a suburb of Toronto. And he showed me the property, and I was very happy for him that, mashallah, he is trying to serve the masses. And we walked outside. Keep in mind, he was of Indian descent. And we walked outside the back door to the open area, and there was a picket fence. And he and I were speaking, and while we were talking, I noticed right across the picket fence that there was something identical in our culture and religion there also. So I asked him, what is that place? He said, that's the Afghani masjid. This is the Indian masjid. Today, in the same town that I was raised in Malton, Ontario, you have a Guyanese masjid, you have a Gujarati masjid, you have a Punjabi masjid, and that only goes to show that if we don't do the first step that Allah's telling us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum, look at yourself. Today, the divide in Islam is a result of the biases, the racism, and the prejudice that I've harbored in myself for so long that I've not realized what it has done to my religion on a grand scale. Last, number one, once more, focus on yourself. Tell your spouse today, tell your children today, and children tell your parents today, and tell your friend circles today, that from this moment onwards, we will never speak derogatory of anyone. Because when we do that, we have disobeyed Allah and His Rasul, because we are questioning Allah in His creation. That Allah has made someone black and I am making fun of them, I am making fun of Allah. If you want to continue making fun of Allah, you will stand in front of Allah, I will stand in front of Allah. But if you understand the severity of this point, and I'm speaking as slow as I can today, only to ensure that this message is propagated completely, we will no longer speak ill. We will never look down on someone else. We will rather advise each other that we need to look at each other in a more desirable way, in a loving way, in a compassionate way. And the day that we will see it actually happen is when before prayer, during prayer, after prayer, in our masjids, we don't see those ethnic circles. For those who say, I'm just talking to my friends, masjid isn't your social ground to talk to your friends. Masjid is a place to socialize and build ummah. Where sisters are meeting sisters they never met before. Where children are saying salam to children they've never seen before. Where men are shaking the hands and hugging those men who are new in the community. This is called building ummah. You want to socialize, with all respect, go outside and do it. Go home and do it. But in the masjid, no longer will we show circles that represent our ethnic cultures that we term as our unity. Number 2 of 5. عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما روى عن الله تبارك وتعالى أنه قال يا عبادي إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي وجعلته بينكم محرما فلا تظالمون. The second step towards unity is to realize that all forms of transgression are unacceptable in the framework of a religion that calls for global unity. In this tradition that I just related to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and remember, Allah is free from everything. If you do not agree, please type. I am looking at your comments. This is not a khutbah, it is a reflection. Allah is free from accountability. Allah is free from laws. Allah is free from space and time. But the same Allah, inshallah, sister, we will speak, inshallah, once the masjid is fully open, inshallah. The same Allah is inserting, he's imposing a law on himself. In this hadith Qudsi, Allah says, O my servants, verily I have forbidden, I have made haram on myself transgression. Why does Allah need to impose laws on himself? And there's no other law that you will find in the teachings of Islam other than this law. إِنِّي حَرَّمْتُ الظُّلْمَ عَلَى نَفْسِي. I have made transgression haram on myself, and I've made it haram, forbidden amongst you. So do not commit transgression upon one another. The fact that Allah, your Lord, my Lord, has imposed a law on himself, a law that forbids transgression, is indicative of the fact that Islam is a religion wherein transgression should never exist within it, and transgression should not exist in the world where Islam is present. Point number 3 towards unity. There's a dua that my sheikh in Medina taught me while we were touring Medina many years ago. He said, "O Allah, your Khalil Ibrahim alayhi salam prayed for Mecca. O Allah, your Khalil Ibrahim prayed for Mecca. I pray for Medina double of what he prayed, for its blessings and for its protection. ربنا إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع عند بيتك المحرم ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة فاجعل أفئدة من الناس تهوي إليهم وارزقهم من الثمرات." The du'as of Ibrahim, look at it in the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ is in Medina, and he's making this dua in a foreign land. In a foreign land. He is making this dua, and he is teaching you and I, my fellow brothers and sisters, in our third point, that it's important that you and I adopt the land you live in as your land. This nation is our home. This nation is our home. Let us not argue about the differences of opinions we may have, brothers and sisters. Let us understand where I am wrong. We started the discussion with where I am wrong. And for all those in our masjid who didn't feel welcome, I take the blame and I apologize. And if you have the ability or the willingness to come to the masjid, please meet with me. I will personally apologize to all of you. Because enough is enough in our ummah. Today, what's happening on this earth is because of me. And if something is going to change on this earth, it has to be me. I hope you all agree that we all need to hold ourselves accountable. Point number 3 I was discussing, that the Prophet ﷺ adopted Medina. He took Medina as his home. This nation, America, is our home. It is our trust. Allah brought you and I here to be a part of here, not to be a part of where we came from. If you feel that that's a hard word that I just said, reflect once more on the words of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "O Allah, your Khalil Ibrahim made dua for Mecca." He didn't say Ibrahim, the one who, alayhi salam, who founded this valley, right? It was a barren valley. Allah said, take your family there. So he was the first person to step foot in Medina, in Mecca. Then was his wife, and then was the child. And then it became a city. Ibrahim alayhi salam wasn't from Mecca, but he prayed for Mecca. He worked for Mecca. He came back to look at Mecca. He came back and worked on building Mecca and the Kaaba with his son. The history is before us, brothers and sisters. If you understand that, Rasulullah ﷺ did not say he prayed for my homeland, my country, my city, my birthplace. He didn't say that. He said for Mecca. My home place is now behind me. My hometown, my birthplace is now behind me. He's saying, your Khalil prayed for Mecca, I am praying for Medina. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to clean this city. I'm going to build this city. I'm going to grow this city. I'm going to unite this city. I'm going to make treaties that will resolve the differences in this treaty, in this city. I am going to make a resolution that will help uphold justice and goodness in this city. Did not the Prophet ﷺ make a charter that the Jews and the pagans and the Muslims of Medina will live as one? Why did he have to do that? He's got enough work to do. He did it because he owned the country. Did they not establish agriculture? Did they not build schools? Did they not dig up wells? Did they not make a system of governance that reflected so much goodness that the world came to see it? Of course they did. You know why? Not because of Sharia law, but because they took ownership of the land. Aisha radiallahu anha herself states Medina was filthy. It was worse than Mecca. But it became Al-Madinatul Munawwara, the enlightened city. Why? Because they owned it. So if we want unity, number 1, blame ourselves. Number 2, realize transgression has no space in Islam or around Islam. Number 3, own this land and do good for the land that you live in. Number 4, accept the bad that occurs in it just as we want to embrace its good. We talk about all the positive things America has given us, the opportunities it has given us, the realities that we were able to benefit from that we weren't able to benefit in our homeland. Many people left their homelands because of the instability, because of the insecurity, because of the weariness of the future, and they came and built a land where future could be made. So if you want to talk about the goods of America and benefit from the goods of this country, you need to own the bads of it also. So number 5, it's your duty now and my duty to take it on ourselves to fix it. To take personal responsibility, accept personal blame is what our Prophet ﷺ succeeded, what helped our Prophet ﷺ succeed in his mission. He blamed himself when the people of Ta'if never came around. He blamed himself for all of his perceived failures. It wasn't failures, it was the direction of Allah. But he always blamed himself, saying that he never tried hard enough. These were words that he expressed to Allah in his conversations and supplication. There's a dua of the Prophet ﷺ in which he made after the incident of Ta'if. He said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Sorry, that's what happens when you put too many things together. Let me get that back here. So this is my makeshift office, so please forgive me here. Okay, there we go. We're back. Hope everyone sees us. Okay, I'm going to hold the computer so it doesn't fall. The Prophet ﷺ said, forgive me for that, it is unstable. Allahumma inni ashku du'fa quwwati وقلة حيلتي وهواني على الناس يا أرحم الراحمين أنت رب المستضعفين وأنت ربي إلى من تكلني إلى بعيد يتجهمني أم إلى عدو ملكته أمري إن لم يكن بك غضب علي فلا أبالي ولكن عافيتك أوسع لي أعوذ بنور وجهك الذي أشرقت له الظلمات وصلح عليه أمر الدنيا والآخرة أن تنزل أن تنزع بي غضبك وأن يحل علي سخطك من أن تنزل بي غضبك وأن يحل علي سخطك لك العتبى حتى ترضى ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. He is saying to Allah, I complain to you of my weakness. I complain to you for the incomplete sense of resolve. O most merciful one, you are the Lord of the weak. I can translate this dua, but that being said, it would take more time. I hope you get the gist of what was just said. He prayed to Allah and blamed himself, complained to Allah for his weakness, and sought from Allah protection from his anger, so that in return he may gain strength. If you understand these 5 points, my brothers and sisters, we need to then proceed with the framework of unity towards what I need to do now, not what I just need to know. 5 points of unity have been described at great lengths. Now let's move towards the 10 steps that we need to take from this afternoon. May Allah give us the tawfiq and ability to do so. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. Number 1, realize that no one is safe when someone is in danger. The 401 plus years of ongoing slavery, racism, and the blatant abuse of the African American community is a sign of my failure as a Muslim in America. Again, the 401 plus years of ongoing slavery, racism, abuse of the African American community is a sign of my failure as a Muslim in America. Muslims who remain silent become the cause of Allah's wrath being released on us all. I say this with great respect. Remember the 3 levels that the Prophet Muhammad told us. That when you see something wrong, change it with your hand. When you see something wrong, change it with your hand. If you can't change it with your hand, this is not inciting violence. This is not provoking people to do wrong and to commit harm. Use your hand. And we'll talk about how you can use your hand in a few seconds, in a few minutes. If you can't use your hand, فَبِلِسَانِ, then speak. The least we can do if we can't do something physical is to use our tongue and speak. وَإِن لَّمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ. If you can't even speak, then your heart better realize and distinguish between what's right and what is wrong. وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. And the Prophet ﷺ says, to have the feeling in your heart that something is wrong is the lowest and weakest level of faith. Do I feel my faith is secure when I don't care about ongoing injustices as I should? The role of Muslim organizations during the apartheid in South Africa, which helped transition the nation from racism towards betterness, was a multifaceted approach that the Muslims took on themselves. If there's a moment in the history of America for Muslims to make change for the better, that moment is now. Because the fire of justice is raging globally. That humanity has come to a point that we cannot turn a blind eye on injustices being perpetrated. Just as the Muslims came together and they united to help root out the problem of apartheid, and they successfully did so, there's a call on the Muslims today to reignite their hearts with an understanding of what is wrong and what is right, to then speak and then to do. Number 2, it is time that we all align ourselves with the movement of justice that's happening again across the globe. We need to keep this fire alight. We need to ensure that those who perpetrate injustices face the consequences that are written out in our justice system. And that the criminal justice system that we currently have in America is reformed so that it reflects justice for all people. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ talked about where the downfall of the past nations came, and so did the Quran. And that, in a nutshell, is when someone who committed a crime, which was a friend or a notable person, was disregarded. But if someone who committed the same crime was not regarded in society, they were punished above and beyond. Brothers and sisters, this is a sign of our downfall as a Muslim, as a nation, as a religion. Do not separate the two at this time. We need to create and continue the momentum of justice for all Black Americans, and then all minorities, and then all Americans. For those who say all lives matter, don't understand the context of what's happening and what's transpired in the history of America. Number 3. The third plan of action from today is to start caring, my brothers and sisters. Your care or the absence thereof shows. The Prophet ﷺ couldn't change the world, but he cared. His care, his empathy, his love, his concern was enough to change the world. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. His care was so well known that even a camel had hope in justice from Habibuna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't even have hope for justice from each other anymore. Where is the hope when we as Muslims cannot anticipate right from each other? Our failures, we need to own the failures of our nation. And we need to become like Rahul in Washington, a man who opened his door for the protesters that were being harassed by the military grade police officers on the street and allowed them to stay in his home during the curfew. You don't need to have a degree. You don't need to have a mansion. You don't need to have money. You need to have a heart. So from this second onwards, I need to start caring. Number 4, don't forget where you came from. In light of time, the hadith and the story that you can look up is of 3 men who Allah tried, and Allah sent an angel to all 3 men and gifted them the response that they were seeking for the trial that they were engulfed in for so long, only for 2 of the 3 of them to fail when the boomerang came around. When they were in need, they took. When it was time to give, they forgot. Let us never forget our hardships. Let us not forget the incidents that we had faced as Muslims in America or around the world. If you forget how you felt when you were called out, when you were pointed out, when you were mocked, when you were put in a state of insecurity, you will never then understand what the people are going through. Number 5, blame yourself, because our community is notorious when it comes to voting. How is it, and please tell me, privately, publicly, whatever you want, how is it that our community still debates, is voting permissible in Islam, when we are able to speak extensively of the political climate of our countries and promote candidates in our countries? I'm pointing back those countries. I'm a Canadian, but before I became an American citizen, I made America my home. And that is my commitment to the land I live in, just as it was my Habib Muhammad Sallallahu commitment to Medina as he left Mecca. And when Mecca was conquered, he could have went back. He went back to Medina because now Medina was home. And that's evident because his blessed body is resting Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in Medina and not in Mecca. We don't vote. And if we vote, we don't hold those we elected accountable. We need to hold our elected officials accountable. If you try to hold your elected officials accountable via email, phone call, text message, hey, guess what? Good afternoon, sir or ma'am. I voted for you and I believe you need to focus on this issue. If you did it to no avail, then we need to start running. Muslims are not engaging in politics in this country as much as they are engaging in their back home countries. If you feel that your voice is valid, please do, respectfully, go engage in politics there. Go engage in forming the society there. But why is it that Muslims today feel it's haram in America, but it's halal in our country? The Quran talks about these double standards. It has to stop. If we are not voting, you better vote, brothers and sisters. We have local and national elections. If you haven't registered, June 15 is the deadline. Go register. In whichever way, go and register for the sake of Allah. And then vote. And then hold those who you've elected accountable. If your vote didn't go through, whoever is elected, hold them accountable. You don't understand when a barrage of emails and phone calls are coming into the office, they notice, they stop, and they reflect. You need to do that. And if they're not listening, then we need to run for elections. And if we run for elections and we're not getting through, we need to prepare a generation that will run for elections. This is what we have to do, because remember, for all those who immigrated to America after 65, if it wasn't, and this is point number 6, if it wasn't for the protests that happened in 64, the Immigration Act that was written in 1965 through Lyndon B. Johnson would have never allowed us to come to this country. So for the mass immigration that happened from the Muslim countries especially, and the Eastern countries into this nation after 65, happened because of protest for rights, happened because of standing up for rights, and those rights were given to all. So if there are protests happening, number 5, go and join those protests. If you can't join those protests, I respect that. I respect that. But if you can't go to a rally, you can stand in front of your door. If you can't stand in front of the door, you can stand on the corner of the street. If you can't do either, then you can make phone calls and tell the people you know to get their voices on. If you can't do even a phone call, then at least galvanize people through text messages and emails. Remember, protest allowed this country to get to where it was. And it seems we need protest again to take it to where it needs to go. Number 7, start a revolution. This is not a political revolution. A revolution here means donate towards the causes of justice. Call for criminal justice reform. If you don't know these things that I'm talking about, Google it. You don't have to leave your home. Google these things. What is the need of criminal justice reform and why? Call for the demilitarization of our officers. Demand that our officers de-escalate a situation and they don't exacerbate the situation. Call for the military to get off the streets of America. There are 2 ways America is molded. That's through legislation and through voting. I've talked about voting and I just talked about legislation. Number 8, end qualified immunity. In our country, there is something called qualified immunity, where the police and those who are in a higher level are qualified to be immune from the punishments that you and I as common folks would face if we broke the law. Call your senators today. Email them. Call your congressmen and women. We need to end this blatant disregard of humanity. Number 9, a story. In the time of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'een, one of the governors of Medina, who was kind of intoxicated with his power, unjustly violated the wealth of one of the companions. The companion told the governor, I swear by Allah, if you don't give me back my right, I will take up my sword. Hear the story, please. Do not stop here. Hear me out. Don't misinterpret me. And then he went and stood in the messenger's mosque, the Prophet Muhammad's masjid, and he invoked Hilf al-Fudul. Hilf is an oath of Fudul. I need you to look up what does that mean. The Prophet Muhammad once mentioned, I was present in the house of Abdullah ibn Judan at the formation of such an alliance that I wouldn't like to possess red camels in exchange for. And if I was called to it in Islam, I would surely respond. The alliance referred to was formed because the custodians of the Kaaba, the masters of Makkah, the Quraysh used to engage in acts of oppression in the Haram, due to which Abdullah bin Judan and Ubayr ibn Abdul Muttalib stood up and called them to make a pact to help one another and to side with the oppressed against the oppressors. In these 2 cases, for those who say, we're not violent, we are not violent. So don't consider protesting and demanding your rights to be violent. Taking his sword and going to the masjid meant that he was determined to ensure that he should not face this injustice, nor should anyone else. And in this case, Rasulullah praised the same person, radiallahu an, who was amongst the people when they saw oppression being perpetrated by Quraysh and the custodians of Mecca through the Haram. They made sure that their voices were heard, and they made sure that they created a movement, i.e., a revolution, that the oppressors were put on the stand and that the oppressed were freed. Musa alayhi salam's nubuwah and prophethood was to free the oppressed from the oppressor. If you know that Mal'oon Fir'aun, the cursed Fir'aun who Allah curses, was cursed. He was cursed because of the oppression that he perpetrated on the children of Israel, on Bani Israel. And Musa alayhi salam worked his whole life to ensure that they were freed. وَأَرْسِلْ مَعِيَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. Send them with me. I don't want nothing from you, just send them. If you don't want the message, that's fine. Send them with me. He did not say send the believers of them. He said send them all with me. So we learn from this to stand and to be firm, as Allah says, كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ لِلَّهِ شُهَدَاءَ بِالْقِسْطِ. Stand firmly for Allah in the cause of justice. It is not befitting for a Muslim anywhere in the world, especially right now, to stand on the sidelines. Because Allah had ordered the believers to help the oppressed, the Prophet ﷺ said he was called to a similar pact in Islam, he would respond. Meaning, if there was such a call in Islam to help oppressed people, he, ﷺ, would respond. If my Prophet would respond, you and I need to respond. And last point, with which we will conclude, is the following. The Prophet Muhammad said, Unsur akhaka zaliman aw mazluma. Help your brother. Doesn't matter if they're the transgressor or the transgressed. As we see a polarized nation dividing further by the second, our duty as Muslims is to help the oppressed and help the oppressor. Because if the oppressed knows that there are people there for them, it will give them hope and security. And if we change the mind and ways of the oppressor, the same people who had influence of evil can be then guides towards goodness. Never write off a people. Rasulullah never wrote off Abu Jahl. He never wrote off Abu Sufyan. He never wrote off Hind. So if you understand this, do not create a wider divide. Bring the people together. If the Muslim Ummah can unite, I swear by Allah, we can be the source of unity for our world, including our nation first and foremost. But if we're not going to unite, then we are only going to face darker and more depressing and more deteriorating days that are to come. My brothers and sisters, in conclusion, today we talked extensively, and the need was there to clearly articulate the point by creating a framework, addressing the 5 points of unity. First of all, what is the purpose of a khutbah? Addressing the 5 points of unity, which is the call of the moment, and the 10 action items I will, inshallah, and you will, inshallah, walk away from here and pray our Dhuhr with. If the images of a man's knee on someone's neck didn't make you cry, it goes to show how far we are deprived from Allah's mercy. This didn't happen because Allah hates us. This happened because we sidelined and we forgot. Doesn't matter how good of a driver you are, take your eyes away from the road, your car will veer off the lane. It will happen. Keep focused, brothers and sisters. And know that in the Prophet Muhammad's Medina, this would never have happened. And in Prophet Muhammad's time, this would never happen. Because justice was the foundation of Islam's preservation. and injustices was the cause of global failure and downfall. We send salutations and blessings upon Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who guided us, who mentored us, who showed us practical Islam. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad, abdika wa rasulika al-nabiy al-ummi, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa baraka wa sallama tasliman kathiran kathira. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين واجعلنا من المهديين واجعلنا من الذين يجاهدون في سبيلك حقا يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ولا يخافون فيك لومة لائم اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا وأصلح ذات بيننا واهدنا سبل السلام وجنبنا الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن اللهم اغفر لجميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات اللهم اشف مرضانا وعاف مبتلانا وارحم موتانا يا رب العالمين اللهم يا ربنا يسر لنا أمورنا كلها ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير آمين يا رب العالمين آمين يا رب العالمين آمين يا رب العالمين إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. Brothers and sisters in Islam, words are only words. Today we just talked. After prayer, inshallah, we will do. Get on those phones. Get on those emails. Start informing your community. Be aware of what's happening in our world. And ask Allah to use us as instruments of goodness. Harbor the weak and the oppressed. Show compassion towards them. Stand with him. It's not enough to say, I'm not a racist. We need to become anti-racist. May Allah uproot racism from within us, from around us, in our Islam and outside of it. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. Please proceed and call the adhan. Pray Dhuhr prayer together. Ask Allah to allow us to once more enter His house and pray Jum'ah together. Alhamdulillah, Islamic Association of Collin County is open. We're having 5 times prayer there. If you don't know, now you know. Please do come to one of the prayers, abiding by the guidelines that have been emailed in our emails that are going out. And final point, Black Lives Matter movement in our nation to ensure that our African American family, irrespective of their faith and gender, are taken care of, are part of the society, is going to be our collective battle till our last breath. We will work all channels with civility and goodness to ensure, just as the Muslims uprooted apartheid in South Africa, may Allah allow the Muslims to unite so that we can uproot this racism and bigotry and biases in this nation of ours, in this home of ours. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khairan. Take care, and inshallah we'll speak to you all soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.